come on. Hey, folks.
Morning, mister.
Real good price. Get some food.
No idea.
Hey, stupid! Of course. Oh, and here is my dear friend, Arthur Callahan. Boys hunter. Boys are killer. Arthur, you mad but not introduced, Mister. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sheriff. How are you doing, sir?
Enough business you boys had.
Dead?
There's no need to pretend with me, sir. Life can be tough.
So it can.
And no man knows another anything.
Sir.
But still, I feel you were done by losing one last. But still, here in the we have worked enough for honest men.
Still.
Don't seem to be doing you any.
Like, a moment. I told you we were up in this. Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, Doug.
Hey.
Thank you for that warning. You did get me at the right time because I'm just going to make funeral arrangements and I'm having a couple glasses to settle my nerves down.
Of course, Bob. My condolences. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you very much, Doug. You have yourself a good day. Thanks for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Of course.
You have a great day.
You too, Bob. Hang in there, man.
Yeah,
Hang in there.
Doug.
Okay.
Bye now.
Okay, bye.
Good honest like us are bound to moralize a place like this.
Oh, Sheriff Green, you are back.
Now listen, sir. There is shine in this woods, though, and it is costing this county its name and the state of a lot of income. You boys, it out. Maybe we make it permanent. I gotta sit. Not a problem, sir. Not a problem at all. You are in safe hands now.
And people waste time. Temperance movement.
Liquor never dulled a good man's senses. Arthur, you ride with the deputy. Bill and I will follow. Climb on up. Archibald, how are you? Very good. And your friend has behaving himself? Oh. Yes, I think he's learned his lesson.
Congratulations on becoming a temporary deputized citizen of Scarlet Meadows County. Most towns just get bounty towns to do their work these days, but Sheriff Gray, the law should keep the law. Now, I'm sure I don't need to remind you, there's a chain of command here. Dang straight there is. This is a dangerous business, but follow my lead and you'll be just fine. Sure.
Hey! Archibald wants to remind us he's in charge here. Of course.
Who else would be? You were a big help with them Anderson boys, and I put in a very good word with the sheriff on your behalf.
We appreciate that.
We rounded up the others soon after pushing for the road myself.
That's not criminal. Somebody's at the door.
Not just those braithwates. I told you about the braithwates.
Pretty sure you did.
Old Collins family had a fortune at one point until, well, a few changes in the labels. Now they're daily sunshine. We found their seals hidden all over Lemoyne. Quick as we destroy one, another one pops up. You could call it a pitiful fall from grace, if they had the grace to start with.
I have no time for text.
Not to mention the fact that Catherine Braithwaite has a rather expensive interest in thoroughbred horses to maintain.
But I heard something about it being Gold's family.
Well, that's the rumor. But the Grays and the Braithwaites think the others stole a fortune from them. But it happened so long ago, I don't know for sure if it's true.
Must be tough being rich, huh?
So I imagine.
That bad rather suits you, W.W.
Yeah.
I thought so too. Does it feel good to be back serving country?
I wouldn't go that far.
Whoa! Hold up! See that wagon? Dear me, that don't look good. Oh.
Come on, mister.
Damn, why? I swear they got it in for me. No, this must have happened recently. Hey, come have a look at this. Look, suit and tie, one bullet through the forehead. My money says this.
Handiwork of a gang called the Lemoyne Raiders.
Let's see if we've got any identification. Okay, we should get going. I'll send someone over here later to clean this up. Taking the reins. I want to have a look at these papers. Sure. I'll direct you. Okay. Frederick.
Yes, this certainly smacks of the Raiders' raid. Much of ex-Army's free states without that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's pink. Yes. Oh, thank you.
I thought he's here.
Okay, you tell me. Oh, thank you.
That's your nose.
My nose? Oh, thank you. I feel better now, doctor. Yeah.
Oh. I got it.
Come on.
charge of writing all the reports, all their. That's government officials they've murdered this year alone.
Go right ahead. Yep. The nicest federal bags,
Oh, and I know the grave plates are in business with them. No shame. Trash, my Uncle Reginald used to say. They're right again. He had a few stories, let me tell you. Town preacher and town sheriff. Drink a sailor under the table before breakfast. He had one tiny hand, like a child's, on the end of a grown man's arm. But anyway, this tells you what kind of people the Braithwaite are. Selling moonshine to murderers. I tell folks don't even speak to them. Don't even look them in the eye.
I'm sure
Here we are. So what was I saying?
something Braithwaite
Word makes me sick. Anyone would try. Round them up. Keep this operation down for good. What we're dealing with. Place was full, and we just found ourselves the rest par excellence since they were my aunt was back in 78. Well, the way I say it, my friend he doesn't have any fine words, but he's definitely the man for the job.
Let's split up. Martha and Bill, me and Archie. They'll take this place.
Remember what he said. We need them alive. Let's just knock them out. Tie them up.
Got it. Deputy Williams. Think you
We
I want my saving time.
Go find it. You got it out there, honey. I just filled it for you. Come on. There it is. And it's full. There you go. Yes, it's full.
Well, what do we do now? We better destroy all this.
And your boys are born explosive? Sure. Anyone but him. So,
That is
time I'm mentioning a Swiss.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, years ago they were the finest family around. 1,000 acres or more, 300 slaves, and, well, decadence crept into their way of living. Decadence and debauchery. Kind of like England, which is why they cut the king's head off. And at the same time, the Grey family came from Scotland recently, maybe 120 years ago. And they challenged the Great ways. And over time, a feud developed. With the Greys being right and proper in pretty much everything, and the Braithwaites being uncivilized and English in their manners, if you know what I mean. And so it has gone on this for years. Please tell me who almost gone Arthur. Sure. Just a second.
Fine by me.
Well done.
Well, forgive me, but me and my man must return to our lives. Seems like we failed to destroy
The last
illusion.
Sure.
Would you like us to?
I
I normally take it
personal
for personal
consumption. It's sort of part of the job.
but
I better get back home.
why don't I just take
a
a
drug or two and leave you boys the rest to show that there's no hard feelings on account of the war.
We are all.
Of
course.
My
cousin, Webster. He used to say some of us is not as American as others.
You know what
You know what I mean?
Only
I didn't. What?
Come
on, you two degenerate little white
trash,
trash.
hillbilly piece of scum.
I
I know you, Billy Lime.
Fine. We have a
I have a right.
land so stupid. A backwater. So backwards that even we are like citizens. Bill, get this stuff out of here. Come on. You ride with me. Okay.
Get out Yes, show it to Hosea. I'm sure he can find it. Bit of trouble out there? Ain't that
From what they was I think they were divided. Old Archibald didn't ask too many questions, so neither should we. I ain't planning to. How was the effort, though? Deputized, hiding in plain sight. These lawmen, these two families. I mean,
think we can play this from all sides.
Got those days and all. This is starting to sound like the young Dutch again. What do you mean? Young Dutch. I'm as strong as I can ever be. Hey, you know.
What? Why don't I race you back? How you doing? Well then, W.T. Okay. You're up. That's the spirit. Okay. On my word. Set. Go.
You never were much of a rider. We'll see about that. Yep. You okay, boy? Running away. I never knew Asian slowed you down quite so much. Well, time is a bastard. When you get to be my age, well, you'll know that better than anything. You will. I had fun with you today. You're I was gonna say you're like a son to me. But you're more than that.
Hey, you joining us here, Arthur? Oh, cheer Arthur, everybody. Hey, Uncle. Yes. Hi, get over here. Oh, I know. I cheated in cards, my dear.
Come on, I'm in a good mood. Join us. No, of course not. Why would we?
joking, you oversensitive Finian bastard. There you go.
Karen,
Sing us
a song. Hey.
Give me a minute. Let me
First, good to be alive, my friends. Alive and free. Karen, leave.
bet your ass we're coming out tonight. Coming out tonight. Coming out tonight. Swing right and left and stick it in the middle. Stick it in the middle. Stick it in the middle. Swing right and left and stick it in the middle. Hang on with the boys. You bet your ass we're coming out tonight. Coming out tonight. Coming out tonight. Valley, we're coming out tonight. Today by the light of the moon. Swing right and left and stick it in the middle. Stick it in the middle. Stick it in the middle. Swing right and left and stick it in the middle. Hang on with the What? Are you here to arrest me?
Hey.
Bids and everything like that for work. And through that contact, I met a lot of people working in aerospace, not only over in the Las Vegas, Nevada area, but also in Los Angeles and the South Bay. I went to Redondo High School for 2 years as well. I had a lot of friends down in the South Bay area. A lot of these friends had parents working in aerospace. Many of them had high security clearances. And some of these children that I was talking to as I grew up were pretty much ostracized to a certain point, because when you're a child of somebody with security clearances, their employers like to have you come in and join the ranks, only because security clearance, like a Q clearance, takes about 3 to 4 years to complete, is several $1,000s. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars to get a Q clearance. And they look back into your life 10 years. They'll actually fly agents on aircraft and go out to your prior residences and talk to your neighbors. And everybody's told, you're not allowed to say to anybody that we visited you. So they like to draw in the children of people working in aerospace in sensitive positions, because it's easier to bring them on board rather than think that they're going to be out there telling everybody what they saw. It's a little easier for them. However, some of us were a little bit more artistically minded, like myself, wanted into theater arts. Other people wanted to be musicians, but these were all offspring of people, individuals that had very high security clearances. And next slide. Oh, God, here we go. You can see how tired I am. Actually, the night before last, I got like an hour's sleep before doing the other lecture last night, so I feel somewhat rested. The Roswell crash was one of the other incidents that kind of made me start thinking more seriously about UFOs, because in the Roswell crash, a couple of things that people tend to forget about that are very important is that the skin of the creatures that they pulled out of this crash had beaded skin like a lizard. And if you look back at the reports, that's very important. Okay, beaded skin like a lizard. In addition to that, Glenn Dennis, who was the mortician out at Roswell, claimed that the nurse who had reported to him what the bodies looked like identified the bodies as having a hand that had small circular pads on the fingertips. Now, I had been educated enough to say, okay, beaded skin like a lizard, pads on their fingertips. This is sounding more like an arboreal or a tree lizard, because tree lizards actually have little pads that have minute barbs on them, and some of them are circular, like little discs. And what they can do is they can grab onto glass, because glass, believe it or not, has tiny, tiny little ridges in it, but it's so small we can't see them. But these guys can walk up and down because these little ridge things are grabbing onto the irregular structures on the glass. But this was not only noticed by myself, but also Wendell Stevens, a good friend of mine, now deceased, and William Steinman got together and wrote a book called The UFO Crash at Aztec, and they printed like 1,000 of them, I think. And it was a very small publication, not many were sent out, but there was one chapter in particular in this that grabbed me, which Wendell said that he insisted get put in the book, which he focused on this fact about they had reptilian signatures to the physiology. And it was in that book he proposed that maybe they could have evolved from the dinosaurs or from some other animal here on Earth. Now, this is what drew me into ufology. And where before I was thinking more or less like everybody else, that everything was coming from off our planet. Now, that's a very nice thing for everybody to be thinking. It's very safe for the government to be having us think that, because as long as we're relying on some sort of scientist or engineer who have the ability to look out into space, we have to rely on them and their control factors to give us the evidence of what they find. We're never going to hear it from that level of our government or from science, because scientists have to bring that money coming in, and the federal government is usually paying all their bills. So when you start thinking about the fact that they could have evolved here on Earth, it's a truism. I haven't got any slides for this, but I'll run through it very briefly. Dale Russell, who was a paleontologist who you're going to see a clip with here tonight, a couple clips, actually spelled it out for us. Under contract with NASA, he was asked to come up with an idea of what extraterrestrial life would look like. And what he did was he looked at the dinosaurs here on Earth, and specifically Troodon dinosaurs 65 million years ago, and he said, look at this thing. It was heading towards being upright, walking on two legs all the time. It had a graspable thumb. It had binocular vision that made it a better predator, because instead of the eyes being on the side of the head, they were moving forward like this. That gave them 3D vision so they could grasp things and grab things better. And eventually he said that this could lead up to a form that was quite remarkable. The other thing that drew me into this was Leonard Woolley. He was an archaeologist a long time ago, and he was the one that found the lizard figurines in Ur over in the Mesopotamian region. Now, what really struck me as interesting about these is that we had one of them actually clutching a small dinosaur-like baby to their breast, like they were breastfeeding it. But it gets into an interesting question I had posed to me earlier this evening. Where is that line of delineation between reptile and mammal? Because we're always told that the reptiles or the dinosaurs died out, but now we're being informed that, wait a minute, a small group of them survived. And not only did they survive, they moved from more of a reptilian physiology to become warm-blooded, and now we call them birds. Okay, so exactly what is cold-blooded, what is warm-blooded? It's that transitionary period in between millions of years in which scientists haven't fully explored yet and explained to us. So there is a possibility that we could have something living side by side with us on our planet that's formed what we call a convergent evolution. And it means basically the environment and the capacity for life to exist on this planet found a better form, which is upright and humanoid. This is actually a more energy conserving form than most other animals have that live on, walk around on four legs that are quadrupeds. So this is the form that if you gave it long enough, perhaps other animals like us would eventually reach. And moving along here, we've all heard the stories about Adam and Eve in the garden. Very few people are aware that the earlier text that it was drawn from, the Judaic texts actually talk about Adam and Eve walking in the garden with a snake that walked upright on two legs, had two arms, and can converse with them. This is what, when you look back in days like that, and then you hear people giving reports of reptilian humanoids coming up and having meetings with them or contacts with them, it starts to make everything come full circle, like the perfect Ouroboros, the snake devouring its own tail. So this, to me and to most people, should be some of the things that start grabbing your attention, going, wait a minute, this is something different I haven't heard before. And for some people in who are not knowledgeable or have been informed on how this could possibly happen, this is a little eye-opening. And the earlier text and drawings used to always depict them as having arms and feet. But nowadays, if you go to a church here in the West and you start talking about the, minister or something, how did that snake actually talk to Adam and Eve? I don't get that. They'll gloss over it because they don't have any explanations. Just like other individuals who are out here talking about reptilian humanoids hardly ever want to bring up the fact that they were here on Earth or established a presence here on Earth as part of our natural evolution, because they've been so conditioned, even in ufology, to keep saying the word extraterrestrial that it's hard for them to turn their mind around. And what I'm going to do this evening is turn your mind around a little bit. So we were used to seeing these guys presented in the movies and TV as diminutive, small little beings who, if we had an encounter with them, would give us some degree of safety, knowing that we could easily kick their butt and run away if we had an encounter with them. And then, of course, Spielberg spoke up, and he had his same little guy being pictured. One of the things I included this in here is because in the Roswell crash, they always said that even though they had beaded skin like a lizard and these pads on their fingers, they also had their skin was rather dark brown, and they looked like kind of old men, like they were wrinkly. And so I thought it was interesting when Spielberg, who might actually have more information than we're aware, included this image in there. So we're used to the little gray guys. I'm moving along here. This is something I did in 3D modeling. And what I did is I had to take several modeling programs in order to get it to look right. And I still think it's not totally correct. But when you're seeing pictures of these reptilian humanoids out there, yes, there's variations of them, but please be assured the most popular and ones that have the best cases usually describe the same physical attributes. It's anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall. They've got beaded skin like a lizard's or scales. They have 3 fingers with an opposable thumb, flattened out nose or slits for nostrils and or ears. Their mouths are wide and lipless. They're extremely...
Everyone at school has the glittery one. Of course she wants that one. And she wants the one with the doodads. No one has the one with doodads yet. But did you check eBay for the glittery one?
Muscular in appearance. Some of them have tails, some of them don't. And it appears that the seniority into the ranks regarding this, it's like a caste system. Their leadership, as described as the Draco, are actually winged beings, things like we've seen traditionally in models that have come out with reptilian humanoid beings perhaps wearing wings. And this is a description where we're told is traditionally the devil. However, I would propose that some of these individuals out there who also report seeing reptilian humanoids or aliens wearing capes, that their capes actually might be folded wings in the back of their backs, or a coverage for them, just as we would wear a jacket. I personally believe that when we were having contact many thousands of years ago with a hierarchy that was reptilian humanoid, that when they left, the people afterwards would shape their heads or try to bind their heads in order to look like the ones who left, because they were so enamored by their presence here. They weren't in fear of them. But it seems like the elongated skull like this is one of those things that we need to pursue much further in ufology as well as regular science, because there's something to it. It's not just a matter of binding their heads to force their skull into a deformed shape like they did to their children. There's been speculation also that when you bind a head, it places pressure on the pineal gland, and this activates the pineal gland in some way, that these people were not only thinking that they were going to change their children's shapes to moniker the shapes of the alien beings or the gods that they knew so long ago, but when they found out they were reaching some sort of maybe a sensitive psychic level and being able to do like a shaman, be able to give readings, this turned into a thing in which they took great pride in having the skulls. This is why nowadays, like Jordan Maxwell, my friend Jordan Maxwell will say, he shows all these hats that religious leaders use, and they've always got these tall cones on them. And it's so foreign for a human to be wearing such a thing. Why would they do that? It is literally because ancient traditions say that there was something magical about having that shape of a head. Dale Russell, when I first started looking into this, I heard the name Dale Russell, and I actually got on the phone and I called him, I tracked him down and called him, had long conversations with him that now has turned into no conversations at all, because I kept suggesting him for interviews on different TV shows to express his work, saying how a dinosaur like that could reach humanoid form, and he didn't want to be connected with it anymore. He actually advised me in a letter that it would be more professionally economical to stay away from this avenue of pursuit in which I'm taking. Of course, that basically means shut up, because he felt pressure even doing a thought experiment for NASA as to what the life form would look like. And when he drew up the reptilian humanoid, this curled toes in the Pentagon. So he wrote his Exponential Evolution Implications for Intelligent Extraterrestrial Life for NASA, in which he came up with this reptilian humanoid model, okay, based on what the dinosaur looked like and what it could eventually reach. Most of the public hasn't heard this out there. Why aren't they talking about this more? Okay, it was in the mid-1990s, there were television programs addressing this, and all of a sudden they fell off to nothing. This idea of his is not taken lightly. In Los Alamos in 1988, they had a fellow equivalent of all the top scientists talking about the implications of contact with extraterrestrial life, and they took Dale Russell's ideas into contemplation when acting upon it. As a matter of fact, I think I'll just blow that up there a little bit. I'll leave this on there so you can read it. Literally, he was basically telling us if the dinosaurs had not made, or if we had not made it, it would have been the dinosaurs in our position right now. They would have been walking around in humanoid form, and they would have been the advanced species. Now, here's a clips. If we can play these clips, that would be great. Now, just before you do this, I'll just preface it saying, these are some clips that I collected off television. There's a wide range of them. There's some TV shows in there that kind of like show how in the 90s people were being familiarized with the form of the reptilian humanoid form. In addition to that, there's a clip on here about Bishopville. Now, I know Liston Truesdale, Sheriff Liston Truesdale is a friend of mine. He's very old now and he's very sick. But since 1988, he's had to deal with the pressures of discovering that in his community, not only one, but multiple eyewitnesses around started having...
Hey. You're so cute.